Thank you everyone for standing by, and welcome to the Radiopharm Theranostics Investor Webinar and Q&A, discussing today's announcement of the Pivalate Phase 2 data, and a quick apology for the brief delay there. All participants are in listen-only mode. There will be a presentation followed by Q&A based on questions that have been submitted via email and live during the session. If you'd like to submit a question, please do so using the Q&A function within the Zoom app. On the webinar for Radiopharm Theranostics, we have Managing Director and CEO Riccardo Canevari and Executive Chairman Paul Hopper. The presentation will last approximately 10 or 15 minutes and will allow ample time for the Q&A thereafter. To begin, I'll hand it over to Paul. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Matt, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in for the presentation this afternoon. I know many of you are RAD shareholders and supporters, so I'd like to thank you for your support today. I guess the first question that people have been asking is, you've got money in the bank, why raise now? Why not let the data run and raise next year? And I just would like to remind everyone that we actually brought the company in under budget to June. Under the prospectus budget, we were $2 to $3 million ahead. That is, we spent less. But going forward, we have taken on 3 new assets which weren't included in the prospectus, and they need funding. And we will also have 4 to 5 phase 1 clinical trials running next year. And, you know, we're in a bit of a nuclear winter in biotech globally. And I think if you have the opportunity to de-risk the company for shareholders, you really need to take it. And I think the rationale for doing it now is that we actually had the opportunity to raise a lot more than 10 million, given how good the data is that Riccardo is going to present to you. But our priorities were to only take the amount that we needed to fund the company until the end of next year to avoid too much dilution. So this will get us through to about end of next 2023. And we wanted to make sure it's a rights issue only, so loyal shareholders have priority over non-shareholders or institution. And with another 10 million in the bank, we've got a lot of flexibility on how we fund the company going forward. I hope we're going to have some licensing opportunities next year if we want them, and we'll be in a stronger financial position to discuss those with potential partners. And I also think that the stock price, which has really been awful in the last 12 months, 11 months, has its best chance to re-rate with no funding overhang, and particularly a re-rating off the back of a positive FDA meeting next year from the results that Riccardo is going to share with you today. So that's a bit of the background. I'm personally going to take $500,000 worth of rights issues myself, and I know Riccardo's taking up his full entitlement as well. So enough from me. I'll pass over to Riccardo to tell you about this really great result that we've had on our phase 2 study. Thanks, Riccardo.
Thanks a lot, Paul, and thanks everybody for joining. We are excited, of course. This is the first clinical milestone for Radiopharm Theranostics since its creation and since the IPO. So we are really looking forward to see this data, and we are of course very pleased with the results. The entire trial will be presented at a congress in Barcelona at the end of this month. But now the data has been completely released, so we had the opportunity to share with all of you. So the most important message is, of course, that Pivalate in this trial has delivered positive phase 2 data. And it's a trial in brain metastasis, also very important patient population. The products that we are talking about is called F18 Pivalate, is an imaging agent designed for glioblastoma and brain metastasis, has a unique mechanism of action, so it's very different from other imaging that has been developed in the past. What is interesting is the therapeutic area, that is brain metastasis. Sometimes it's easier to confuse brain metastasis with brain cancer. In reality, brain cancer is quite rare. We are talking about 18 to 20,000 patients per year in the US. Brain metastasis instead is about 20 times bigger. We are talking about 400,000 patients each year in US. So not only is a met need in the area, but it's also for a large patient population. And today, for those patients, there are limited imaging options. Usually, these patients are assessed through MRI or PET, FTG, and both these technology has limitation. For this specific reason, the trial was designed to address those needs. So the phase 2 trial with F18 Pivalate has been planned in patients with one or more brain metastases from different primary tumors, because brain metastases can arrive after a patient has breast cancer, lung cancer, melanoma, colorectal cancer, and then the metastasis develop in the brain. So it was important to assess not only one primary tumor, but more than a significant number in order to be sure that you can apply the results to the entire patient population. This trial was also organized in two different cohorts. The first cohort was patients that did not receive external beam radiation. For those that are not expert in the segment, is the typical laser therapy that is externally delivered to selected cancer cell. The other cohort is for patients that already receive external beam radiation. Now, the first patient population is the broader one, is the most important, and the one where we are expecting better results. So under this trial and these two cohorts, the trial was performed at the Imperial College of London. It's one of the most prestigious center in Europe. There were key lead medical experts conducting those trials with the highest quality standard. What is interesting that the patient population of our interest, that is the one without external beam radiation, we can say that the data are completed. So this cohort is concluded, and for this reason, what is technically an interim analysis is also a final data. Only the cohort of patients that are undergoing external beam radiation will continue. So from our point of view, the important part of the trial, we have final data. And these are the results that we were expecting with a lot of attention. Is very important what are the conclusions that you will have the opportunity to see also in the official abstract, and what will be probably presented and written in a peer review journal. So F18 Pivalate show high uptake regardless of the origin of the primary tumor. What does it mean? That Pivalate, when is injected in a patient, is able to cross the blood-brain barrier, to arrive to the brain, and then to be uploaded selectively by the brain metastasis, much more than the normal and surrounding tissue. The patient, when has this situation with higher concentration of Pivalate in the brain metastasis, then undergo a PET scan machine, and the PET scan is able to detect where the brain metastases are, but also to understand if these brain metastases are large size, small size, growing, or reducing. So very important tool for the physician to detect and monitor brain metastases. As expected, the patient without external beam radiation are the ones that are showing higher tumor uptake, and these are where the higher medical need is. On the opposite, the patient where external beam radiation has been already performed show a lower uptake. And you see that we have now completed the phase 2, and it's exciting to look at the next step. And in fact, with this high quality data, we plan to have some important conversation with medical experts. We plan to organize several meetings with neurosurgeons, with oncologists, with nuclear medicine physicians, to be sure that we include the physician perspective in our approach when we go to FDA, because this is a critical next step for us. With those data, we want to ask for a meeting with FDA. We will present the data. The Professor Eric Abouaji, that is the main investigator of this trial, is also in our scientific advisory board, has agreed to come with us and to discuss those data. From the FDA, we expect two potential outcomes. I would say both of them positive, considering the data. Our best case scenario will be the FDA will allow us to go directly to phase 3. This means that we are only one clinical trial away from potential FDA approval and commercialization. And this is our best case scenario. The other possibility that FDA, viewing the data, will ask us to further expand the phase 2 population with additional 20 or 30 patients and then go into phase 3. Also, this scenario is anyhow positive, considering that in an imaging trial, it doesn't take more than 6 to 9 months to do the remaining patient that might be required. Of course, we want to prepare ourselves and we aim for the best case scenario, and we are looking forward for this meeting with the FDA. That can be another significant inflection point for the company. We at Radiopharm Theranostics are a company that is looking at the potential of imaging, but also therapeutic. And these imaging data are, of course, giving us more confidence about acceleration of the development of the therapeutic candidate. Will be, in fact, already proved the mechanism of action. And in this situation, what we have to do is to attach to the molecule a high energy isotope, so that when the molecule goes to the brain metastasis, in this case, is able to kill the cancer cell. So excited by the imaging data, and at the same time, even more about the possibility to develop a therapy. But I like to share with you what is a very important market opportunity and assessment that we have done to quantify the potential of the brain mets in the US market. We took the example of a recently very successful launch imaging agent from Lantheus, the global leader in imaging. Lantheus has recently launched in July 2021 a product called Pylarify in prostate. Prostate is a big market. It's about 250,000 patients per year. Based on Lantheus assessment, they consider that 70% of those patients are eligible to receive imaging dosing. So we are talking about 170,000 patients. The price per dose that has been approved in the US is $4,700, and this brings the total opportunity to around $800 million per year. This assessment was done at the end of 2021, only a few months after the launch of the products. The reality is this product is performing exceptionally well. Lantheus is already selling more than 100 million per quarter of these products, 500 million total year of sales. So probably the potential market of 800 million will be reached within the second year. So really incredible launch, the most successful launch in the as an imaging agent. And the reason is that these are a new generation of imaging agent. They are organ specific, in this case prostate, in our case brain mets, and they have superior data compared to what is available in the market, and the acceptance of the market is very strong. What we did in our case, we look at exactly at brain metastasis. There are around 1.2, 1.3 million patients every year presenting a solid tumor in the US. Around 30% of them present a brain metastasis during the course of their illness. So we are talking about 390,000 patients each year in US. We applied the same 70% eligibility criteria and we arrived to 265. We assumed the same price of 4,700 and we arrived to a market opportunity of about $1.2 billion per year. Now, of course, this is not something that can happen tomorrow. We need to conduct the phase 3. We need to confirm in the phase 3 the positive phase 2 data that we just presented. But this is a very important market opportunity for any company that will be the first to market in this area. And we believe that with F18 Pivalate, we have very good chances to be in this positive situation. So this gives us even more enthusiasm to continue this and to start the new trial due to this very important market opportunity. So really, really excited. Now, I like to close just mentioning that this is, by the way, the abstract where the data are made available, and it's very nice to see in the results how it is statistically significant, the higher tumor uptake in the brain mets compared to the surrounding healthy tissue. I like to close reminding everybody that Pivalate is a top priority for us and is one of the 6 molecules that we have in our pipeline, and we are excited to bring 4 new phase 1 clinical trial to patients in the next 2-3 months, and to bring our pipeline to the next step. But today was all about Pivalate and the phase 2 data, and we are extremely, of course, pleased by the results. And thank you for joining us, and we are, of course, here to answer any potential questions.
Thank you, Ricardo, and to Paul as well. We'll now move on to the Q&A session. Once again, the questions are based on some sent through via email, and we'll take some live questions also. So if you do have one, please type it in using the Q&A function within the Zoom app. The first question that I've got is, was the company underwhelmed with the post-stereotactic radiotherapy uptake results?
Thank you for the question. This was absolutely planned. So based on the mechanism of action of Pivalate, it is normal to believe that the molecule has a better uptake when the cancer cells has not been treated yet. In the patient that receive already external beam radiation, there is this high energy laser that is hitting the cell and is somehow disrupting the normal cell biology. So it's very difficult then to have a normal uptake. So this was, I would say, on the opposite. This was a proof of concept of the mechanism of action that this patient benefit from receiving Pivalate sooner rather than later when they are still with the untreated brain metastasis, and this is the largest patient population.
And Ricardo, I think you've alluded to it there, but does that affect the commercial viability of the product?
No, absolutely. At the moment, there is one product in development that is targeting patient after external beam radiation. That, by the way, is not our patient population. And at the moment, we are the most advanced in development for the patient without, and the potential of the market that we show already is reflecting those data.
Thank you. Another question I'll direct to you, Paul. It was, why not announce the capital raising at a later date after an uptick in share price following the positive data?
Yes, I think I touched on that at the beginning. Well, there's no guarantee in this market at the moment that you get a big uptick anyway. I think there's been a couple of raises recently in biotech where good data hasn't always been received with an elevated share price. So we decided to accept the reality of the current biotech market, and we went for it today. So that was it. It was as simple as that.
Thank you. Just as a reminder, if there's any further questions, please feel free to type them in. Ricardo, one further are there any other updates or upcoming catalysts in terms of the other programs that investors should be aware of?
Thank you, Matt. So I briefly mentioned it. We have 4 phase 1 clinical trial that we plan to start in the next 2-3 months. 2 trial in US, 2 trial in Australia. And this phase 1 trial usually lasts about 12 to 13 months. So by the end of 2023, we will have probably 4 phase 1 trial results. And even more important, because these are open label trial, we will keep the market informed well in advance on how the first patient, first visit is happening, how the recruitment is going, and when we are at the last patient, the last visit. So a lot of information to the market on the 4 new program, including, of course, what is the follow-up of Pivalate phase 2 data.
Thank you. Another question that's come through is, can you explain the relationship you have with Lantheus and if they would be interested potentially in Pivalate?
We do have one molecule. It's our nanobody targeting PD-L1 expression. That is a very typical mechanism of action in oncology, are the one that so-called checkpoint inhibitor are targeting. We do own the IP of this molecule, and our relationship with Lantheus is that Lantheus own the global rights of the imaging agent under our IP, and we kept the global rights of the therapeutic agent. So Lantheus is developing the imaging of the molecule. We are developing the therapeutic. We have an agreement where we will share data in front of the health authorities and regulatory authorities, and we have all the interest to develop in parallel the asset, because it's always needed to have the imaging first, prove that there is expression of the PD-L1, and then potentially treat with our asset. So we are really going end to end together with Lantheus in this important clinical development. Regarding the second part of the question, I'm sure that as a global leader in the space, Lantheus will look at all the important news and clinical information available. We will share with Lantheus the data. Actually, we have done it under CDA already, and I'm sure they will be very interested to understand more, and we are always open to discuss potential synergies.
Thank you. Following on from that, if Pivalate does get approved, how quick is commercial uptake of diagnostics? For example, what is Lantheus revenue run rate since it launched?
This is exactly why we did the benchmarking exercise. So we wanted to be sure that we are taking the proper understanding of the situation. So the Lantheus products called Pylarify was launched in July 2021. Now we are a little bit more than a year after the launch, and is already delivering 100+ million per quarter. So this has been the fastest uptake of any imaging agent that we have seen until now in the market. So very, very strong interest from the medical community. Adoption has been extremely fast. So probably Lantheus will be able to pass the $500 million in the first year of launch. That is quite remarkable.
Thank you. The next question is, if you receive FDA phase 3 approval, will the trial still only take 6 to 9 months? And can you estimate the patient numbers needed for that trial?
In case we receive FDA approval to start a phase 3 trial, we expect the trial to be of about 200 patients. This is the number that Lantheus had in their phase 3 that led to FDA approval. So around 200 patients. The time from first patient to end of the study in the Lantheus case has been about 12 months, so extremely fast. So equally, we expect potential need to do a 200 patient trial with a fast enrollment of about 1 year. So this will be a very favorable situation.
Thank you. The next question is, if Pivalate were to be used solely as an imaging agent rather than therapeutic, does it need a phase 3 trial, or is phase 2 satisfactory? For example, could the company start generating income from imaging whilst awaiting the phase 3 trial to finish to get approved for therapy?
Well, this will be a great idea, but unfortunately, we don't believe is possible because the trial and the data has been generated in UK and not under FDA IND. So what needs to be done is to perform some data generation in US under the so-called FDA IND. So there is a need to do a trial in US before you can have any approval.
Another short question, did Lantheus go straight to phase 3?
Well, Lantheus followed the typical process of phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. And this is, we are half of the way. We have done with Pivalate, we have done the phase 1. Now we have completed the phase 2. So there is one step more.
Thank you. And the final question is, if FDA clarifies only one more trial early next year, what would be an example of number of patients, time to completion, and cost? And how does this compare to what Lantheus went through?
Yeah, we took the same assessment of what has been done by Lantheus that led to successful FDA approval. There was no need to think about not going the same pathway. So I think I mentioned before about 200 patient trial, duration between 1 year and 1 year and 6 months from the preparation till the end. The cost of a clinical trial of this entity is significantly less expensive than a therapeutic trial. So a proper estimate is about $50,000 per patient. So in total, a phase 3 can cost about around $10 million US.
Thanks, Riccardo. That's the end of the Q&A. Paul, I'll throw back to you to just provide a concluding comment if you'd like.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So thank you everyone for listening in today. I hope you see the great potential here for this particular product coming out of the gate 11 months ago from the IPO. It's obviously very satisfying to have Professor Abouaji produce this result in such a short time. So we're excited. We're looking forward to getting in front of the FDA and reporting back to the market as soon as we can. So those of you who are shareholders, thank you again. And if you want to increase your shareholding, I think it's a great opportunity at these prices. It's obviously a very significant discount from where we were on the IPO, but I can assure you there's not a day where we don't try everything we can to make sure we rebuild value. And I think the rewards will come. So once again, thanks for dialing in, and Ricardo, thanks for being up all night doing presentations.
Thank you to everybody for joining.
Thanks again, everyone. That concludes the session for today, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye for now.